Most men never realize that their spine is the key to experiencing full body non-ejaculatory orgasms. Not to mention being able to last significantly longer during sex. But if your body's locked up, if your spine's locked up, you'll never be able to experience this. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can turn your spine into a pump for sexual energy, which will not only help you to last as long as you want during sex, but help you to dramatically intensify the amount of pleasure that you're feeling. Maybe you'll even have a spinal orgasm. Let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White, and I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy and create an epic life. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when new content like this drops, and make sure you get my free ejaculation control ebook through the link in the description of this video to massively uplevel your ejaculation control. So a good starting point is just to become aware, or maybe think about right now, what are your typical movement patterns during sex, whether that's masturbation or actual sex? Like, how does your spine move? How does your body move? What's really common for men is to be sitting stiffly on a chair, hunched over, just jerking off. And there's not a whole lot of spinal movement there. So when men get in these practices and like, oh, I want to move sexual energy up my spine, and they're just, sitting here like this, trying to breathe up the spine, it may not happen because there's a lot of congestion in this region. Sexual Kung Fu and mastering your sexual energy is all about being able to get your sexual energy, your arousal, all this nervous system excitement in your genitals to move through the rest of the body. Because when it's stuck down here, you can only ejaculate. But when you open up this pathway for it to move upwards, this is where you get total ejaculation control and non-ejaculatory full body orgasm. Let's talk about the actual role of the spine in the context of sexual Kung Fu. The spine acts as a pump in our sexual practice. Now, physically, the spine has this cerebral spinal fluid. So having an open spine, having a basic, spinal movement practice in general, whether you're doing yoga, certain mindful movement exercises, or sex, which is a great way to get this pump going if you do it properly. This helps to keep the spine lubricated, helps the spinal fluid to freely circulate. And energetically, the spine is like Grand Central Station. It's one of the main communication areas. The brain connecting to the genitals, communicating with the genitals, genitals communicating with the brain. And of course, there's all other layers of connection between organs, the heart, etc. But the spine is very important, basically. Most men have a very stiff, blocked spine. It's very common for men to experience back issues, to have all this stiffness and tension and aches and pains in the back and the spine. So having an open, flexible spine is one of the most important things you can do for your health, and especially for aging gracefully. Because a lot of people, the older they get, the more jacked up their spine becomes. And one reason is we spend so much time sitting down. So our goal is to really open up this region and create this free fluid communication in the spine. Once we do that, there's a clear and open pathway for sexual tension, for arousal, sexual excitement, orgasm to freely move through this channel of the spine up to the brain, which gives you complete ejaculation control, which gives you heightened state of orgasm, even full body orgasm. And overall, it simply increases your pleasure during sex. Like, sex just feels better when you have this spinal pumping engaged. Now I'm going to talk about two important areas of this spinal pathway. So a lot of men are stuck in the spine, but the most common area the men tend to really be stuck in is the hip region, the pelvis region. And so it's like, I put a red marker here to show the importance of this region. Now I'm really talking about the sacrum here, sacrum being just above the tailbone, the low back, because this is the area that is often very blocked for men. Again, because the hips are filled with tension, they're physically stuck. So a lot of men have a blockage at the very base of their spine. So of course, it's not gonna be able to get up to the brain if it can't even get through here. So this is why hip mobility is extremely important. Too much sitting down jacks up your hips. The glutes tend to become overly weak, postural muscle imbalances in the hip region, the pelvic floor becomes extremely tense and tight, so just all these issues in the hip region. So proper movement, at the very least do some stretching practices, doing things like yoga, hip mobility exercises, get up and move your body more. If you have a job where you sit down all day, stand up and move every 15 minutes. It's as simple as standing up, moving a little bit and sitting down. Even that alone helps to keep these muscles activated instead of getting switched off because you're spending hours sitting on your ass. Now let's talk about the other region, which is the occipital region, the base of the skull. Another area that tends to be very stuck and contracted with tension for men because there's this huge plexus of nerves in this area of the body. So there is this communication between the sacrum and the occipital region, known as the jade pillow in Chinese internal practices. Sexual kung fu, baby. So we want to get this communication happening between these two. Of course, there's all these other regions in between, but if we can just focus on these two and get them open, then that's going to really move the needle for us. So let's go deeper into what that looks like. So as simple as, hope you can see me okay, moving the hips. My tailbone moves down, kind of pressing, this feeling of pressing my groin forward, and then I arch the back, sticking my butt out. So posterior tilt, anterior tilt. Simple as that. But for a lot of people, they're so stiff here that this is an unnatural movement and engagement for them. You want to think of creating this motion during sex. This is going to start to help to open up the sacrum, the hip area, and even your pelvic floor. Helps to glide the tissues in this region a bit more. Now, another layer here, I've talked about this before, but it's extremely important as well. Engaging the glutes. As my tailbone goes down, as I go to posterior tilt, I engage the glutes. You think of driving your motion from the glutes, driving it with the glutes, and then relax, you tilt, drive with the glutes, relax, drive with the glutes, relax. So I contract my glutes, not 100%, but just enough to feel like I'm pushing myself from my glutes. That will help to wake up this sacrum area, get this communication happening in the nerves around the tailbone region. I'll talk more about how this is all going to come together, but let's talk about the occipital region. So it's as simple as tucking your chin in. So see how I tuck my chin in and think of pressing my head back into the wall. Now to kind of exaggerate, really like, but you don't have to make it that extreme. You just want to make this feeling of that tilting back. And you can even think of rolling the head. So I tuck the chin in, head comes back, comes a little bit forward. Now this is a great motion just to wake up this area in general, but you can actually start to incorporate these movements during sex, which is where we're really going with this. Now be careful with your neck. This is a very sensitive region, so if you have any sort of neck issues, just in general, be very careful with this. Only implement these things after getting your physician's approval. So basically how you integrate this is you want to think of using these motions during sex. You want to really get familiar with this pumping movement. So I'm knocking things off here. This movement of the sacrum and the hips. With all sexual kung fu, it's great to practice with self-pleasure because there's no pressure, there's no distraction, it's just you connecting to your body. It's a great way to get a handle on these sorts of things, no pun intended. So drive with the glutes, and then as I engage the glutes and bring the tailbone under, I also simultaneously tuck the chin. So I tuck the chin. So it's creating this feeling of lengthening the spine. And I inhale when I do that. Now, practicing this in self-pleasure, you want to move like this. Instead of sitting stiffly in a chair, you coordinate your stimulation with these engagements. It may seem a little awkward at first. As the tailbone comes down, again, that chin tucks in, and then you can even think of looking up a little bit as you go into the anterior tilt. So tuck and open, slight nodding sort of movement. And you can even experiment with making sort of wave movements during sex. One time, I remember the first time I really felt this going, I was having sex and I'm building up into a lot of pleasure. I started going into the state of just full body orgasm, just very, very powerful movement of pleasure up my spine. And I spontaneously started moving like this, just these waves of pleasure going through my spine. Now, again, be very, very careful with your spine, but you can incorporate these types of wavy movements. Basically, you want to think of making your whole spine mobile during sex. You don't want to be stiff like this. You want to loosen it up, baby. Oh yeah, you can tilt the hips, make some spirals. Oh yeah, baby. So it's this movement, this fluid movement in the spine is what helps to pump your sexual energy upwards. Now, even if you don't even have any internal skill as far as circulating sexual energy, you use these physical movements and it's going to dramatically help open up your body and create this pumping sexual energy. And one other layer you can add is as you go into your posterior tilt, tucking the chin, tailbone tucks under, that movement forward, you inhale and just sweep the mind up the spine. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So you're physically pumping, and then the mind, the mental engagement helps to engage that flow of sexual energy up your spine. So again, practice doing this in self-pleasure. Try it standing at first because it's probably a bit easier just to really feel this, and then experiment with doing it like on your hands and knees, sexual type position, in various positions. And of course, this directly implements into sex. You start to think of incorporating these movements into sex. It will make it a lot more dynamic, it'll be a lot more enjoyable, and you really create this fluidity in your body. So enjoy, have fun. And think of tuning into your spine almost like it was an extension of your cock, of your penis. Feeling like, oh, can I feel sexual pleasure in my spine? Just you start to imagine, what if my spine was this erogenous extension of my sexual organs? And just that awareness alone will help you start to build pleasure in there. So practice with that, have fun. The next thing I recommend you do now is to watch a video I made that talks more about the pelvic floor and how releasing patterns of tension from your pelvic floor dramatically helps to overcome premature ejaculation and build your sexual endurance. So I'll put a link to that video. Please give this video a like. Remember to grab my free ebook that will teach you how to attain legendary ejaculation control. There's a link in the description of this video. Take care, my friend.